Hey there everybody, Eric from Outer Limitless coming at you today with another video. Now in today's video I'm going to talk to you a little bit about some backpacks. And the main thing being that for me, as I grow further and further into both gear reviews and also the hiking and backpacking genre, I am definitely gaining some experience and have an opinion about what type of backpack you should be looking at if you're a beginner or if you're somebody who's looking for a good quality carry option. Now when I talk about a good quality carry option, there's a number of different criteria that you kind of need to think about. The overall weight of the bag, the ability for the bag to actually carry your gear. So what size and volume it is, but also what features the bag has on it. Now a lot of times there's a trade-off between the ability for a bag to carry a lot of weight and also being light enough that you're not adding too many pounds to your big three. So the big three being your shelter system, your sleep system, and also your backpack. So your backpack definitely weighing into the overall quality of your camping and backpacking experience. So between your ability to effectively and efficiently carry your gear, but also not having a bag that's so heavy that it actually adds too much bulk and weight to your kit. So if you had asked me a year ago what bag is the perfect bag for the beginner, if you could only buy one bag and you had one choice, what bag would that be? And at the time, I definitely would have said the Osprey Atmos 65. A 65 liter bag or something in that size range is pretty good for the beginner. The main reason being a lot of beginners have heavier gear. As you get into hiking and backpacking, you can't afford all the top-notch high-end stuff. The higher the price a lot of times on your gear and the nicer the gear, oftentimes the smaller it can pack up and the lighter it will be. So to me, the Osprey Atmos 65 was a good choice for a beginner simply because of its overall capability to carry a good amount of weight, but also the size and the features of the bag, the ability to carry your gear comfortably on a long distance, but reasonably efficiently. That to me would be a reason to pick the Osprey Atmos 65. However, along the way, I ran into the Granite Gear Crown 260, which is a magnificently light bag. This bag is amazing in its overall lightweight capability, very comfortable, feels great on the back, holds my gear just the way I need it to, but there's one drawback, and that is the overall limitation to how much weight you can actually carry in this bag. So getting into the differences between these two bags, the Osprey Atmos 65 and the Granite Gear Crown 260, both in that like 60-ish liter range. However, the Atmos 65 having a significantly more robust harness and carry system than this Granite Gear Crown 260. Which, when you talk about the Crown 260, leaves it a little bit limited in its overall ability to carry that heavier gear. And for me, it is also the fact that a lot of times I carry for not just me, but also my kids. So very often I do have a slightly heavier load, the overall bulkier gear, and a good amount of stuff that needs to fit in these bags. So when that's the case, it limits me and I cannot carry this Granite Gear Crown 260. But leave it up to the people at Granite Gear to solve that problem and come up with the perfect solution, the perfect middle ground between the Atmos 65 and the Crown 260. This here is the Blaze 60, one of the newest offerings from Granite Gear. This bag strikes the difference between a good quality lightweight system and also the features and function that you need and the ability with the harness system to carry a heavy load. Will this be the case where after reviewing this Blaze 60, testing it out, getting it out into the field, and actually having some brand new beginners using this bag, will this be my new recommendation for the brand new backpacker? So this is going to be a multi-part series. First here today, getting into the features of this bag, looking at the overall construction and quality. The next video being a comparison between this, the Osprey, and the Granite Gear Crown 260, and finally using this bag out in the field to see what it's like for your brand new backpacker. And I'm going to give it a whirl on my own to make sure that I can give this a good quality recommendation. And if you're interested in seeing a little bit more about what I'm about to talk about, do me a favor. Stay tuned. part of me thinks that finding the right backpack for the backpacking application is kind of like a rite of passage. If you're familiar to backpacking and you've been at it for a long time, you probably know what I'm talking about. You get a bag, you think it's going to work, you use it for a while, and you say, I kind of want to try something different. You get a different bag, a different carry system, and you continue to learn more and more about what you like, what you don't like, what works, what doesn't work, what's light enough, what's not, what's capable, what's not. And I'm wondering if this Blaze 60 from Granite Gear is kind of like the solve to that problem. Now, is it kind of cheating a little bit? Are you cutting right to the end and getting right to the source? Well, that might be the case, but let's be real. Buying a backpack for the backpacking application is very expensive. So if you had one chance and one chance only to get it right, striking that balance between the overall fit, finish, function, comfortable carry, and the weight of a bag, I mean, you really should be able to narrow it down and hopefully just nail it home once. And that's what I'm hoping this Blaze 60 is going to be. Now, this Blaze 60 is actually a unisex bag, so this would work for both a male or a female. They do have a couple of different options in terms of the color. I got it here in the black, simply so that I can compare it carefully later on with the Crown 260. So I have the Crown 260 in tan. This is in black. It'll give you a good comparison when we move into that portion of the review. But here today, looking at this Blaze 60, this does have a lot of similarities to the Crown 260, and I am very familiar with a lot of these features. Now, generally speaking, the biggest difference that you're going to start to get into is the harness system. So, as I rotate this around, and actually at this point, let's just start to own this thing. Removing the tabs here. I am looking at this for the very first time with you today, so we're going to get an understanding of this bag here together. But generally speaking, you'll see this nice contoured back panel. This is a quality mesh. Now, I can tell you that with my Crown 260, I am quite careful with this. I think if there's any part of the bag that's susceptible to damage easily, it's this back panel. So I do encourage being very careful with this. When I put my bag down, I lean it this way so that this is protected and not digging into anything. Like, I don't want it to rub against a brace of rocks. I don't want it to snag on branches. So I am mindful and careful of this back panel. However, I can tell you that it is very comfortable. Feels good on the back, has a good amount of airflow. So for that, I like the fact that they've gone with this system on the Blaze 60, continue to use it and refine it. So for me, this is a nice shoulder and harness system. But there is also a fundamental difference. The Crown 260 was not adjustable in the overall size of the shoulder straps. So this does give you flexibility. As you look in here, this is the size regular. And the regular goes from a 19, 20, or 21 inch sizing on the shoulder straps. Now, this is a big difference versus a lot of other Granite Gear backpacks, the ability to adjust the shoulder height, and that's very important. For me, the ability to get this completely dialed in can make or break my carry experience. So the idea that you have 1 inch increments and you can completely dial this in, that is excellent. And the waist belt also too being able to be appropriately sized. So as you get into this, you will see it is called the Refit Adjustable Hip Belt. So you can size this exactly to the perfect fit around your waist. I greatly like that. I have enjoyed this feature very much. This is similar to some other Granite Gear bags, and to continue and using that feature on this Blaze 60 is definitely advantageous. And that's important when you talk about different body sizes, not just tall and short, but different overall widths of bodies, and that's also important from male to female. Now again, keep in mind the fact that I said this is a unisex bag, so it's very flexible and versatile. It gives you the ability to not only necessarily carry this yourself, but maybe you get further into backpacking and you want to go with somebody else who doesn't have gear. You can fit this bag perfectly to somebody else, and it gives you a good quality carry option for someone else as well. And I like that. I like the flexibility, I like the versatility, and I like the overall features that I'm starting to see on this Blaze 60. And speaking about this waist belt, here you'll see on each side of the waist belt, nice ample size pockets. So the ability to stash some gear in here, put your wallet, put your headlamp, put some snacks, whatever you need to. Now, these do have this Velcro here. So interesting, the ability to kind of adjust this waist belt how you need to, cinch it up a little bit, and then kind of flap that down. Works pretty well. for me, that's going to be great where I could potentially attach a dump pouch and carry it on the front as well. If you've watched my other videos, you'll know that I very much enjoy having a dump pouch. So the idea that I could actually have a dump pouch and that pocket, that is totally sweet. Now swinging this around and looking at the front of the pack, you'll notice the top here is a quality head pack. So this head pack held on with some buckles. Now you'll notice that Granite Gear does use some small, fine buckles. Well, I don't have a problem with that at all. In fact, I've had good luck with the Crown 260, no issues whatsoever. The hardware's been plenty ample, and the fact that these are small and light, they don't add bulk, they're very efficient, they do exactly what you need them to. So the buckle choice for me on this Blaze 60 is definitely a plus. And to the fact that the head pack can come completely off. So there are buckles on both the front and the back. Gives you the ability to remove this head pack if you don't want it. And this is very simple on the inside. Just one pouch, nothing really complicated about it. No frills, just a simple pouch right on the top of the bag. So the fact that this doesn't have any additional organization on the inside to me is actually perfectly fine and a plus. I like the idea that I can add my own pouches and my own organization to this. I don't need added weight with what Granite Gear thinks my organization is. I can handle that on my own. So I've come to appreciate over time a little bit of simplicity in my backpacking bags. The ability for me to determine how I want to organize them and what pouches I'm going to use. And at that, I really enjoy a dump pouch style bag. A simple drawstring enclosure on the top. The ability for me to stuff my things inside, I think is perfect. And that is also what you get in this Granite Gear Blaze 60. This is essentially a dry bag. So at the heart of it, you do have a waterproof system with no additional need for a rain fly. And that is another place where you're going to save some weight. I think that's a great option. I love the way these bags are built. And as we get into it, we're going to take a look at the inside of this so you can see what I'm talking about. So getting into the top of this, here you have a little enclosure. So this is kind of like your roll top design. So these wings that kind of clip this all together, cinch it nice and tight. You can remove this, open it up, and then you have an additional clip to keep the top closed. Getting into here, that is that drawstring enclosure. So getting this nice and tight and buttoned up. And then here, your dry bag style interior. So as we look at this, you'll see right away, this is lined, so it gives you good quality protection for your gear without the need for an additional rain fly. I can't overstate the fact that that is very important. So I like that. I think this simple design, a simple dump pouch design, really this bag just has one main compartment. Very simple. However, one additional interior compartment worth noting, and that is that this has a bladder sleeve. So that's very important, the ability to get a hydration bladder inside the pack if you need it, but it's separate from your gear. I have other bags that for me just don't quite work. The bladder is literally in with my gear. That always has me sketched out. I go to a lot of mountainous places where at night the temperatures really drop off. So if I had wet gear, I would be in big trouble, and the last thing I want to do is be 6, 8, 10 miles deep in the mountains, have wet gear, and find that I am freezing overnight. So to have that pocket on the inside and that sleeve, I think works well. Now, just one comment, and that's the idea that as I look at the bottom of this bag, I don't see any sort of drainage hole. So to me, the idea that you have basically a dry bag and a waterproof bag with a hydration bladder on the inside leaves me just a little bit nervous to the idea that if you did have a problem with your water bladder and it leaked inside the bag, it would basically fill your bag up with the bladder water instead of it being able to drain out. So it might be the case, and I don't really know, that if that bladder was to leak, it could leak out of here somewhere. But I think having a dedicated drainage hole in the bottom of the bag, maybe in the back here, when at that point, if it was to leak, you'd actually kind of know it because it would get your back a little bit wet. Or even in the bottom here, might be advantageous, but time will tell, and hopefully I just never have that problem. But continuing down the front of the bag, you'll see 1, 2, 3 compression straps going right down the front. On the side, 1, 2, and 1, 2. So tons of compression straps all the way down the bag. That's very important. Helps to keep your gear nice and managed and tidy. When you have your gear in the backpack, your ability to tighten it down, cinch it down, and keep it nice and tight between and behind your back. So between your shoulders and behind your back, very important. So to have that amount of overall compression on this bag is great. And the fact that at very lightweight, perfectly capable, good overall features, and the ability to cinch everything down, I definitely see that is a plus. And when we talk about lightweight, this bag is 3 pounds. Now you may say, hey, you know what, there's tons of other bags that are way lighter than that. Yeah, this has a 50-pound load rating. 50 pounds. So a 3-pound backpack with a 50-pound load rating, that is just awesome. In fact, I could be wrong. I would say that 50-pound load rating, probably the Atmos 65 doesn't even reach that. I'm going to take a look and see if I can find that information, and I will annotate it below. But at 3 pounds, nice and lightweight. You'll see here the sleeve down the front. This is a nice, long, ample sleeve. That to me is an awesome feature for a few different reasons. For me, that's probably where I'd keep the bulk of my food. I mean, real easy to get to. My food typically doesn't take up a ton of space. I like it accessible on the outside of the pack where I can get to it easily. Maybe in a different situation, I would carry it in the head pack, and then in the front here, I'd have a jacket, maybe a hat, things to keep me warm, and if I need to kind of take my coat off or put it back on, just ease of getting to it. So this has been an excellent feature in the Crown 260. I'm glad to see it continues here on the Blaze. Has some little tool straps on the bottom here. Now I can tell you that I have struggled with these just a little bit. I find as though having an adjustable strap sometimes is advantageous. These are not adjustable, they're kind of fixed, so that leaves it just a little bit limited. So for me, if I wanted to add an axe to this pack, generally what I would do is put the handle down and then flip it up and get that into place with the compression straps. But that does not really work here where these straps are not long enough to do that. You'll see it really tugs on the bottom here and does not give you that capability. So instead what you kind of need to do is wind this up. And that to me is, I don't know, I don't really like doing that to the bag. I don't like putting that type of stress on my gear. It doesn't work great for me. So depending on what you're looking to do with these loops, I guess it's hard to say how they will work for you. For me personally, I would use these loops to carry my axe or something like that, especially a bag with a 50-pound load rating. At that point, I'm talking about how do I attach my tools to it. And so that is just one thing that I found was limiting on the Crown 260, a little bit limiting here as well on the Blaze. Now continuing to get into the features of the exterior of this Blaze, this has what looks to be a wonderfully large side pocket. This is actually kind of interesting. I'm not even sure what this is, so looking at it with you here for the first time, this has kind of a unique design to it. So this strap is quite long. If you look at how large this compression strap is, looks like this side pocket can really push out like very, very far. That is interesting. Wow. That is not a normal size pocket compared to most other bags. So that's actually pretty neat. Maybe I would keep my food in here. That is totally awesome actually. So looks to me like you could really cinch this down if you want. So you have this nice drawstring, which kind of pulls that nice and tight, helps to keep the water out of it. I don't see necessarily, yeah there is, so there's a little gusseted hole down here which will allow it to drain. So even if you were to get some water inside here, that will drain out. So to me, this pocket being that large and then the ability to kind of tuck it away and get it out of the way, that is awesome. So these pockets will accommodate literally like any size water bottle whatsoever, and really have a good flexibility for what you can put in there. That is awesome. I love that. It's almost like a dump pouch, which I greatly like. I think that's an excellent feature, the ability to tuck these away, but then open them up if you want to put stuff in there. That to me is like definitely my food pockets. I love that. And that leaves the front of the bag nice and flexible, the ability for me to stuff my jacket in there. So Nice job, Granite Gear. That is definitely cool. But just to make sure that it's the same on both sides, as we look at the opposite side of the bag, yep, that is definitely the case as well. So whether or not you want to put a water bottle in there, different types of gear, I could easily fit my jacket in there. So you know, if it was a day where it was windy and my coat was coming on and off and on and off, you know, I was hot while I was hiking, so I took my coat off and just stuff it in there. But then when I stop and it's kind of chilly, I could just pull it out. That's another thing for me. I carry a lot of down, so having the water quality, I would say like repellents on this bag is very important. So keeping my down gear dry is a must. So this Blaze 60 is amazing, and I just want to go out and use it like right now. But unfortunately, I can't do that. I have a bunch of work to do, and it is not time to get this out on the trail just yet. But one last feature I would like to talk about, and unfortunately it's a feature that's not there. Just one small detail. I would like the ability to potentially have something on the bottom of this bag. So it is just a little limited where unfortunately there aren't any straps down here. I like when I can connect something to the bottom of the bag. That would be nice if I did have that ability, but I can tell you it won't make or break my experience. And as I look at this just a little bit closer, as I look here, this does also have a zipper running up the front. So this here gets you right into the bag. So that's a little bit different from some of the other Granite Gear designs. I like that, I guess, to a certain extent. However, I hope that does not come at the expense of this ability to shed water. I think the waterproof characteristics of the Crown 260 made it extremely desirable. I am a little bit nervous that this could potentially get wet. Well, if that's the case, let's test it. So I'm just going to kind of water torture this thing a little bit to see how it does and get a feeling for it. Now, when I did this to the Granite Gear Crown 260, I took the bag, I flipped it upside down and all around, and what I found is that it did have some susceptibility to water due to the port where you route the hydration bladder hose. And I don't want to do that here to the Blaze 60. I don't think that's a fair representation of what you're getting into. The reality is rain comes down, period. It's going to be really few and far between when the backpack is actually upside down and subject to the rain. So I want to simulate a heavy rain coming down to see how this will perform. But we're going to take this thing and soak it up pretty good, and then we'll check the inside of the bag to see how it does resisting water. Now, talk about a fair representation. You're never going to have a rain this hard, but let's just go with it anyway and see what happens. So, focusing on the front of the bag, I mean, I can tell you these side pockets are definitely going to get water in them. But the top of the head pack, let's soak that really good. Now you can see a lot of water just beading right off of the top of the head pack. That is a good sign. This fabric on the front of the bag definitely getting wet, but let's continue to saturate this and see how it does. Now I'm also going to pour water down the back side of the bag and see what happens here. Now granted, this would likely be on your back and it wouldn't quite hit the bag like this, but I think this is just a good overall test to see how water resistant this bag truly is. And that to me is a good soaking. So a little bit overkill, but let's see how this overall performs. Now, as I look at this fabric, I'm just going to shake off the excess water to try to understand what's actually permeated into the fabric. And I can tell you that the top fabric definitely feels a little bit wet. This front fabric here definitely also feeling wet. That is certainly wet. Shoulder straps don't seem to have really soaked in too much water, but they are wet. So everything here is just good and wet. But what about the inside of the bag? So getting this where I can see the inside, you'll see this is absolutely dripping. And opening it up, already a good sign where, as I look here, actually this part of the bag is already dry. So the head pack doing its job to help keep the inside of the bag dry. And looking here, the buckles are dry, the webbing's dry. This inner part of the bag here, I do see some drops of water, but opening it up and exposing the inside here, my initial impression is that it does appear generally to be dry. I see nothing to make me suspect that water's gotten to the inside of the bag. I would say it's like 90% dry. There are some water drops as I look inside here, just a tiny little bit, but take a closer look and you'll see for yourself. So getting a look inside, you'll see some tiny water drops, really nothing significant. A couple little drops down here, again, nothing significant, just a tiny little bit. And I mean, to me, that's probably just water that's kind of been splashing around just a tiny bit right down here. So a little bit of puddling, you can kind of see it shimmering around there. So a little bit of water did get inside the bag into that bottom part there. But generally speaking, this performed very well. So all right guys, there you have it. A quick look at the overall features of this Granite Gear Blaze 60. So I'd like to say thank you very much to the people at Granite Gear who have provided this for review. I am very thrilled with this bag so far. Just in my initial impression, I'm blown away. I hope this performs exactly as I expect it will. I believe this is going to be the bag that I recommend into the future for your beginning backpacker, not just a beginner, but your advanced backpacker as well. I feel as though this has good overall features, capabilities, nice hardware, good materials, a lot of things that are very advantageous. Between the ability to tailor this exactly to the size of your body and your needs, the overall lightweight construction, but also that heavy load rating, this bag is absolutely a hit. So the next time you'll see this bag, we're going to take a look at this and compare it against some other bags that you may be familiar with. We're going to take a look at this versus the Osprey Atmos 65, as well as that Granite Gear Crown 260. So all right, guys, thanks for stopping by. I hope you like what you saw. I hope you found it a little bit informative. If you like what you saw, please like, share, and subscribe. And as always, thanks for stopping by. Take care now. I'll see you soon.